Good morning, everybody, and welcome to my channel. I am That Bengineer, and this is a quick video on a project that I've been working on that I wanted to kind of show off to everybody. People that follow my channel know that I like to make videos about the Steam controller. In general, I'm just a big fan of having really interesting ways to control games. And I have been working on this project kind of in anticipation of the new update of Elite Dangerous, but also just for my own personal edification, learning how to do this kind of thing. So I've been working on this button box, which uses a Teensy microcontroller. The Teensy takes all of the inputs from all of the buttons and converts them into a form that the computer can read. Now, I'm not a programmer, I'm not an electrician or anything like that, but I was able to get a product that works, and I am pretty proud of it. So I just kind of wanted to show this off and kind of gauge interest. I'm probably going to make another one of these in the future, and if there's any interest, I'll think about doing a step-by-step video tutorial on making this whole thing from start to finish. I gotta say, it's a really big, a really good result for the amount of effort that it takes to make it. So without further ado, I'll just kind of show it off here. So I'm just going to start, I'm going to launch here. So we've got four two-way switches on the top, four three-way switches in the center, and 8 buttons. 4 of them are square, 4 of them are circular, and then I've got 4 encoders. Each of them can be turned left or right, and that turning them either way is its own separate input. They also have push buttons. So I'm gonna kind of run through how I've mapped it out for Elite, and just kind of in general talk about my thoughts on this kind of project, some pitfalls and that kind of thing. So I've got my Corvette here. It's the only ship I feel safe in. So anyway, you can see I've got my landing gear. I don't know if a majority of the people that watch this have played Elite Dangerous, but I've got my landing gear, and this key right here, this switch, controls that. I've essentially set it to, when this switch is flipped, it sends like a pulse, a joystick impulse for a certain amount of time. And so, in essence, it's as if I'm pushing a button. So, when I flip this switch, the landing gear retracts. And then if I were to do it again, the landing gear comes back on. I've also got, this is another two-way switch that I have mapped to the hard points. So when I flip that switch, all your guns come out. There are a couple other cool things, so these are known as toggle switches because they're toggling something from one state to another. So I've got this one set to flight assist mode, which will allow me to keep moving in a given direction even though my engines are turned off. Ooh, and I'm not very good at flying like that. I think, there we go, that's my all stop button down here. I've got, these are three-way switches, like I said. They control my my ship's power levels. So I can increase either one or any of the 3, and then pressing down on this one, I hope you can see that, pressing down equalizes all the inputs. So if I press down here, you can see on the bottom right, everything is reset. I guess I gotta get a little closer. This is probably the most, these encoders I would say are the coolest part of this project, at least for me. It's so fun to use them. So up ahead we got a bunch of targets, and so I've got this encoder set to cycle through all available targets. So if I just turned it right, it selected the station. If I turn it right again, it selected that ship right there. If I turn it left, it goes back to the station. So it's a different input. And so I can just keep scrolling through, select all of these targets here. And there's 4 of these encoders. And so I've got them all kind of set to different settings, obviously. But I believe this one right here is set to scroll through available enemies, which there aren't any right here because I'm allied with the station. This one selects my fire groups, and I forget what this one does. Now, I said the encoders also have a push button. So this one, when I click this encoder, it selects the highest threat. So I like to have the buttons kind of grouped into similar functions. So this one scrolls through all available enemies. This one selects the highest threat, which in this case is nothing, which you can see it says no hostiles in range. But yeah, that's really about it. This project was really fun. It probably took me about maybe a week and a half. The price really kind of depends on what parts you want to use for it. But it really doesn't cost that much if you can get good parts for it. Personally, I'm using the Teensy 2.0. Sorry, the Teensy Plus 2.0. However, depending on the number of inputs that you want to use, you wouldn't have to use that one. You could probably get a Teensy 3 for like $20. The switches, are, pretty cheap. I kind of burned out a couple of them when I was soldering. But, if you're an experienced solderer, you shouldn't have that problem. But yeah, just let me know if this is something that you're interested in seeing. I think I'll go ahead and just kind of demo a little combat with this. I won't do any audio for that, but or any narration for that. But you should get an idea of just how cool it is to use something like this. I'm actually making this for a friend, and he requested that to have a very tactile board. That's why this switch is different than these 3 switches, and this switch is different than these 3, and there's square as opposed to circular. He wants to be able to use this in VR, and so obviously you won't have the luxury of being able to just look down at the buttons. You're kind of working by feel to see what you want to push. So without further ado, let's get on with the demo.